All right. I'm at the Red House with Gregg Cagno. Thanks for coming over.
Yeah, man.
I'm
Good
excited.
to be here.
Excited to talk to like a fellow songwriter that is one that like I feel like we have a lot of songwriting overlap. You know what I mean? I feel like we are a common type of. I feel like we have stuff in common as artists.
I agree. Yeah, I picked that up as soon as I met you last summer for sure.
Yeah, which was a fun little story in itself. Was I met you randomly. You were kind of invited by extension to come to Pop-Tart Fest, the second ever Pop-Tart Fest.
Oh, that was only the second ever. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, man. So for those who don't know me personally, I sometimes will do these themed parties, like ridiculous parties, and that was one of them was Pop-Tart Fest. So everybody just brought Pop-Tarts and hardly anybody ate any Pop-Tarts. But anyway, yeah,
so it stocked you up for the year.
That's good. Sure did. I mean, I was like handing them off to people. It was ridiculous. But anyway, yeah.
But it coincided with Play Music on the Porch Day. That's what the beautiful thing was. So we ended up on this fine porch out here, swapping songs, and I got to meet your whole crew, or a piece of your crew at least, and some great people. I mean, that was a really great day for being a new guy in town. So it was,
I'm glad you made it. It actually was legitimately Play Music on the Porch Day.
Yeah.
So it was pretty beautiful. Yeah,
I had gone down to Old Salem that morning and saw some stuff and saw like a big dulcimer troupe was playing down there on one of the porches, and I wandered around town looking for more. And then when Cindy told me about your party, I was like, there's got to be some music over there.
Oh, yeah.
So, nice.
So, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from New Jersey. I grew up in Clinton, New Jersey, which is kind of central, kind of smack dab in the middle of the state, honestly. Maybe central north, I guess. No, maybe more northwest central. Okay, now I'm getting a little too specific. But yeah, I'm a Jersey guy by birth, and but then I lived all around that state. I lived down in Hoboken for a bunch of years after college, and that was kind of where the music thing kind of took root, or took hold of me a little. I had been playing through college, though. I really started playing in high school, and but yes, I'm from New Jersey.
Yeah, and were you around any original music sort of prior to college, or was that really?
No, I was, because a really influential thing was when I was in high school. A great friend of mine, his grandfather actually, we had gone to the beach, and his grandfather saw us hanging out with the acoustic guitars at the beach, and he said, you guys should go check out this coffee house in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania called Godfrey Daniels. You got to listen to grandfather. So we went out and checked out this place, Godfrey Daniels, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and it was a real game changer, because it was a listening room, and it was an open mic where people came and played original music, and it was kind of just like, wow, there's a lot of these people,
Right.
It's like, it was kind of, we had, so this is probably our like junior year of high school. It was right after I started driving. We drove down to this place and started going to these open mics on Sunday nights. Here we are. And, and that was really that was kind of my into original music. Now, you know what? If we're going, while we're chatting, why not?
Yeah.
I had gone down to the Jersey Shore with my buddy Christian's family, and we were hanging out on the boardwalk in Ocean City, New Jersey, and we heard some guy playing guitar on the boardwalk, and of course it drew us in, so we sat, listened to this guy playing, and he was playing stuff we knew, some Crosby, Stills, Nash, and I remember him playing Van Morrison, whatever. But then he played a song, which I didn't know, and I was like, that's a good song. Who wrote that one? He goes, oh, I wrote that one. And I was like, come again? He's like, yeah, that's one of mine. I was like, wait a minute, you made that song up. Wait a minute. You can just make up songs, It's like, and now I'm like, I'm like 14 or 15 at the time.
Yeah.
And he was the first guy I met who wrote songs, and both of us were kind of like, oh, we got to learn how to do that, man. That's cool. I was like, it just came out of thin air. This guy just made that song up. So, and so that was the game changer, really. There, that was like the insight into original music.
Yeah.
And wanting to be a songwriter, just because it was, it wasn't something I really, it's like, to me, it was like, I loved the Beatles at that time and still do, but I mean, like that was like early on. And, but like the idea of writing songs didn't really occur to me until I saw someone else do it. Like
of course.
That, and it's just like, before that, it was just like, well, you got to be on the radio if you write songs, or, you got to be a Beatle, or, and you just don't think.
You have a totally different perspective of the industry and like what it is at that time. I remember I used to be, I still am kind of obsessed with like making lists and stuff. For some reason, it's a gratifying thing. And I had a list of sort of, when I was 16 or 17, I had like a bucket list type of thing. Mm-hmm. And on that list was like, at the time, I didn't really think of myself as pursuing music. It was before I was pursuing music. And I just had a different idea of how it all worked. And on that list was, I wanted like one song that I wrote to make it to the radio somehow or another. That was like my goal. And, it's funny looking at it now, like how far away, like how different I see that whole piece of the industry, like how I don't relate to that goal, in any way.
Right.
But you just, when you're first kind of like looking at it from a distance, it just looks totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool though. And like the coffee house you went to. So did you go there and perform, or did you go there and like see a show?
No, we went there expressly to go to the open mic.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. And we figured out when the open mic was. I do remember, like the first time we went there, I don't think we had the mechanics of it figured out yet. And so we ended up like, playing very late, and which was fine by us. We were both nervous as hell,
Mm-hmm.
But then, we figured out, you got to get there at this time and draw your tile, and it was very organized and democratic, and it was a great bunch of people. And then once we figured that out, we were pretty much there every Sunday through the rest of high school, and kind of became our new musical community,
I love that. I mean, that's what I miss. That's what I cut my teeth doing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I did my first gigs were in a Taco Bell.
Uh-huh.
After that, I cut my teeth with all my buddies at an open mic in King up here at a coffee house that isn't there anymore.
Okay.
And yeah, like,
What was that place called?
it was called Juice and Java. It was called Foothills Juice and Java.
Nice.
And it was like, looking back on it now, it wasn't the best coffee, and like it was all hilarious how seriously we took the open mic and stuff. But that was our introduction to this whole world. And as far as we knew, that was like a really big deal. That was kind of we did it for a while it was on Thursdays, and I think for a while it was on Tuesdays, and we just went religiously. We went every week, and it was serious business. It was like where we brought out new material and tried out new songs.
Yeah,
and stuff.
and it motivated you to have new material.
It did.
It's like you wanted to go back and not play the same 3 songs. So we went home and wrote new ones, and and it was great. And it turned. It was a and still is. The place is still running. I played there probably a year ago. Last April, but we got to know people doing it for a living there too. That kind of opened that door of like, oh, there's actually, tens of dollars to be made doing this.
Yeah, dozens maybe.
But I mean, like the thing that led to the next connection in that story is that one of the guys who used to come to this open mic was a local hero, kind of just busting onto the national scene. This guy, John Gorka, do you know his music?
I'm not so sure.
He's one of my favorites, and has been since back then, because he was like the first guy I saw doing it and doing it right, and I was like, oh, this guy is good. And the second time I went to that open mic, I had the fortunate or unfortunate experience. I was on right after him, And I'm getting ready to go up, and this guy starts playing. He's like, pulls out his little notebook and throws it on the chair and starts. He's like, I just wrote this, and he starts singing this song. And I was like, and sings like 3 of the best songs I've ever heard. And it's like, oh, good, I get to follow that, you know. But at the same time, I was like, wow, that's how it's done, you know.
Yeah.
And it kind of just, you know, it opens up these lights and these doors of like, all right, this is what I need to do to get better at this, you know, like. Learn from someone who's doing it right. And
Yeah.
he was very cool about, he was, you know, it was a shy dude and still is. And, but he was kind enough to you know, point us in the direction of this organization called Fast Folk out of New York City, where he had kind of cut his teeth and learned how to write songs. And he's like, cause we were living in Hoboken. Well, I was in Hoboken. This is before that, though. No, I was still. Geez, this is high school. I'm still in high school. Anyhow, so years later, when I'm closer to it, I started going into New York to this workshop, this Fast Folk workshop, which took place in the Village, I guess, right down by Houston Street, run by this guy Jack Hardy, and. That was Monday nights, I think. And it was, you know, it was a songwriter workshop, and it was bring a song. And I guess they did a prompt at the end of each meeting if you wanted to write on that for next week, or you just had to show up with something, but you couldn't show up without a song, you know. And those guys were serious. I mean, they not serious as much as like they weren't sugarcoating it. You know, you're like, if your song is too damn nostalgic, you're going to hear about it, you know? And it's just, and they weren't afraid to cut into, especially, you know, young guys like me coming in off the train. They'd be like, oh, what are you doing with those major 7 chords? Come on, kid. You know? but it's great. And again, that was like the way I learned. And,
were they like looking at songs from a commercial perspective or from a artistic, or how would you, you know?
They did tend to write in there was like, you could probably, being an outsider and being, you know, coming in as a newbie, as a kid, it was probably the fact that it was like, to me, the themes were a lot darker than I was used to, or what I was writing, you know, at the time. And I was like, well, it's not really the headspace I'm in, you know? And so I do feel like, you know, a lot of the songs I would bring to that were a little more positive than what was being written in the Village in the late 1900s, you know? Yeah,
when you're talking about the Village in the late 90s or 1900s or whatever, I'm picking, you know, probably the 80s or something.
Well, I probably first went there in the late 80s, though.
Yeah.
If I'm doing my math right.
I'm picturing like lingering shadows of like Ginsberg and Bob Dylan and Cohen, like.
Well, yeah. I mean, the guy who ran the thing just was Jack Hardy, and he had come up in the 60s with you know, he was playing with Dylan in the late 60s, and so he was like he was the old guard. He ran the whole thing, and so yeah, he kind of came out of that coffee house scene.
I see,
and I know, you know, he did cross overlap with Dylan, you know, and
yeah.
And he kind of became like the vanguard of the Village, and like Dave Van Ronk used to come to his workshops, and like, you know, it was well seeded, as it were. And like, and over the years, I mean, people, you know, Gorka would still come to that workshop sometimes, and but like Suzanne Vega kind of came out of that workshop, and I know Tracy Chapman cycled through there. I know she was Boston, but anyhow, they started out of that workshop grew this thing called the Fast Folk Musical Magazine, and it was a subscription-based thing. And this is, you know, this is the 80s. This starts in, right. They are doing like a magazine subscription to this, and they had like a printed, you know, Xerox copied stapled thing at first, and then, but they would print vinyl of these songs that were coming out of this workshop and have this go out as a monthly subscription. So like it kind of became this thing of like, oh, are your songs good enough to get on the vinyl? You know, vinyl, we're talking. I mean,
Yeah.
so that was big. And I think I know I got a song on there the first time in 92, I think it was. And I was like, this is big, you know, this is a game changer for me, you know? So, anyhow, I'm not going to worry about digressing because that's what we're here to do.
That's what we're doing. Yeah. I love this. This is what you're making me think of too is like something that I'm kind of aware of, and you hear about it in the comedy scenes. And I think it also probably applies to the music scenes, like in cities like these and in areas like New Jersey, but also in like specific cities like Boston and New York, there are these circuits, these networks that are a little more existent and defined. And when you're talking about New Jersey, like you're talking about an area that's like the boardwalk, like there's a central sort of area that people gravitate to, like in the evenings or whatever, even in the daytime. And that's part of what I feel like is so romantic about being an artist in the Northeast compared to the Southeast, you know, because down here it's like everybody's so life itself is so spread out, and city you can live in a city and you can live in a more dense area, but still I don't know that it's quite as at the same level, I guess, of sort of this type of design or whatever, this layout, this geographical layout that kind of draws people into being more like feeling like they're in a singular community, because that's what I have in my head about Boston and New Jersey and New York.
I hear what you're saying. I and it you know, it does exist on many levels, but I think it's also, you know, it's community that kind of comes, that forms that, you know, I don't, that's true. I don't know of that scene in like Raleigh or you know, Greensboro or whatever. I don't really have much experience down here at all.
Yeah.
But and I guess I just took that for granted. That was like, you know, artists kind of coagulate in a city somehow and, you know, find each other and through whatever format and you know, it's different levels of that. But I mean, like that, like, you know, how artists coagulate on your porch, and like, you know, that kind of, you know, guys like Colin Alured and what's your buddy Chris's name?
Yeah, Chris Owens. Oh, Christopher.
And so anyhow, yeah, I hear what you're saying though. And I mean, that was the nice thing about, it was a nice thing about, like, because Godfrey Daniels kind of connected me to different scenes. And like, I met a lot of people through that were in that Boston scene or in that, like, and then Fast Folk kind of like spread it to, somehow I got connected with the Boston, like the Cambridge scene. There's a club up there, Passim. Are you familiar with that? And felt like Passim was a big, you know, 60s club as well. I think I know Dylan made his rounds through there as well, Joni Mitchell, and it was kind of this hotbed in Harvard, and still is, right in Harvard Square, kind of a subterranean coffee house where you'd play, and there was a window that was like, was it to your left as you're playing, and you'd like see ankles walking by at street level, you know. So anyway,
that's got to be interesting, at the very least. It's got to be kind of, when you're in environments where you know that Dylan played and stuff, that has to add a little mystique.
There's some magic there. Yeah. I mean, I remember like I can still feel the idea of being in Greenwich Village, like when I, you know, even when I just started going there the first time, just like recognizing the landmarks and like being of a place that you've read so much about and have seen so many pictures of, and then you're like, you know, it kind of vibrated to me in that. And also you're young and like everything is so new, you know. It's like when you go there's something about travel when you're young, that is magical. That just kind of like, I mean, travel is magical and all. Travel has that built-in magic of if you take yourself out of that comfort zone, you're a little more open to, because you have to be. I mean, is it a survival instinct or just the wonder that's built into a human mind?
Right.
Is like when you go to a new place, you kind of are just taking in everything like on a different necessity level or a different. I think you're just seeing more, and that's what's been really special about moving down here to me is like, I mean, I feel like I'm just getting my bearings around here, but like I'm still in this mindset of like, this is all so new to me down here that like, it's been a real treat, and it's kind of, it was an unexpected, not unexpected. We had kind of been moving toward an opportunity to move back to North Carolina. My wife is from North Carolina.
I see.
And yet we have been living in mostly Pennsylvania since we've been up there. Did we ever live? No, the first time we lived together was Pennsylvania. Yeah. But she grew up down here in Southern Pines,
Yeah.
and actually went to School of the Arts as a kid.
Oh, cool.
And now she's like back, 30 years later, and then she's the director of that program. So it's a nice full circle thing there. It's also a nice homecoming for family down in, she got family in Southern Pines and family in Elon, and now she's got a little brother right here in Winston.
Nice.
Which is nice, yeah. And cousin right down the road here, and so it's nice that it's the area is new to us, but we have some roots built in, which is
Oh yeah, that helps a lot.
yeah.
Culturally, I guess different, but Pennsylvania, I guess a little less drastically different than further northeast. There's some like plenty of rural communities and stuff like that.
We were mostly in Philadelphia.
Okay, you're in Philly.
Yeah, but that's not true. For the longest time, we were in, there's a little river town called New Hope. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of New Hope, yeah.
And great artistic town on the river, right on the Delaware. And, kind of an artist community since the 50s pretty much. And there's the Bucks County Playhouse was like kind of a proving grounds for Broadway that kind of drew a lot of artists out there in the 50s, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
And a handful of famous authors lived around there, and Leon Redbone lived around there. Weren't we talking about Leon Redbone, you and me? No, it was somebody else. No, it wasn't you. Sorry. Anyhow, so we were in New Hope for the first 10 years, I guess, and then we moved down to Philadelphia, and we were there for about 7 or 8 years. So,
was music always the art form that spoke to you the most, or is it the art form that speaks to you the most?
yes, yeah, definitely.
Even as a listener as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, I appreciate, I appreciate all forms, and am gratefully exposed to a lot of them through. I mean, my wife was more of a theater performer, more of a musical theater performer, and now through School of the Arts, I see a bunch of theater over there, and we actually went to a spring dance show last night downtown, and it's fabulous. But music is what I connect to, and the lens that I see things through, and and I've done a little theater just kind of by accident almost,
Yeah.
And it's not. I appreciate it, and I appreciate it more having seen the pros do it and see how hard my wife has worked at doing it. But I'm the music's the one for me.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
One time I was on this thing, somebody, hey babe, a little like in production thing was looking for a banjo player, and I couldn't find somebody. I was like, yeah, I play banjo, and I think it was paying. So I don't think I would have done it if it wasn't. But it was a theater production, and it was interesting because it was puppets in theater. And so what it was like puppets with real hands that really played instruments, but you had a puppeteer attached to you.
Oh, that's funny.
And they were running the puppet, and you were being the hands.
That's funny.
So I got this gig that was just, all it was like a pre-production example of this. So we put on like a 10-minute performance that had some dialogue, but also a music performance. And as we were working on things, they were sort of like, okay, now we're going to have this moment where we do this sort of thing where we make all this racket. And basically it was like, instead of it being pure, just I play an instrument, they wanted me to almost step into the shoes of somebody who's comfortable in a more theatrical role. And I just in the middle of it had to tell them, like, I'm sorry, I am not prepared to do that. Like, I'm not mentally prepared to be a theater person. It's not, that's not the way I understand performance. I'm not I'm not been trained to be that free exactly on stage. You want me to do anything with my instrument, I can do it, but I can't, I don't know. I just can't do it. And it changed everything about what their whole plan was in this thing. But point being, there's just a difference in the type of artist that is able to embody a character versus that artist that tries their best to perfect an instrument. They're different crafts, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't think I could have been an actor.
I mean, there's, you're a showman though. You're also, you're the overlap of being able to hold the attention of a room of people with, you're embodying characters.
It's true.
Maybe I know a lot of the songs are first person, but you have some songs that are not. And even the one, like you start from a first person place and kind of, it becomes a character,
Yeah.
And, the Life Lessons record of yours is just great, man. And like, I'm speaking of, I don't know you that well. And I'm just like, I don't care if these songs are true or not. It's just like, that's when it becomes like, to me, it's like the songwriting is going to be interpreted by the listener, and it's going to be, I'm sure you feel similar. I'll take this off. We're interested in getting a point across.
Yeah.
But then at some point, that point becomes up to the listener, So it's like, I want to know that the song is saying what I wanted it to say, but I'm okay with you interpreting it a different way.
Of course.
And that's kind of the blessing and the curse, or the fun and the struggle of songwriting. Is like, did I write it clearly enough that what I intended is getting through? Even if they take that a different way, but I want them to hear the words, or hear the message that I was trying to get across. And then they can apply that to their lives, or, that's, I get tied up in the philosophy of it, but like, that's the truth, it's just like, you don't want to know too much about what a songwriter was going for.
Yeah.
Or it becomes like someone telling you what to think.
Oh my God. Yes. Which, by the way, I just thank you for mentioning that or whatever, because truth be told, I was scared of the Life Lessons project because of what it is and how deep I went in it or whatever. With just my own willingness to say things that I ordinarily wouldn't have said on record, but I'm actually quite proud of that. But I noticed, like, when I put it out, I was like scared to death of promoting it. And I don't know how that happened exactly, but I didn't really promote it. I didn't really try to get a lot of eyes on it. I didn't do hardly any press for it. So anyway, as a songwriter who I like what you do, I like truly trust your sense of the craft. It does mean a lot to me that you like that project. And yes, I totally agree. Like, there's something stoic, there's something honest, I think, about the lack of control. Because like, I don't like clawing for control anyway. Like, it feels bad to feel like I. It reminds me of when I was younger, I guess. Like, I feel like there's something a bit immature, I think, about the tendency to try to grasp as much control of other people and of their perspective and of their sense of something as you can. And as a songwriter, I don't like it. I don't like it at all when I start to get the sense that they're telling me this story leading into a song in a way that is like constricting my imagination or not leaving enough room for me to experience the song or anything like that. I can think of other examples that I won't necessarily put on blast, but like examples of people just insisting. I will mention this. I met a artist once who wrote a book that I knew of that just like, he was like, I want to write a book that was like about all of my intentions for all of my songs, because people have their own interpretations, but I wanted them to know my meanings. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. But on the other hand, you're sort of like, you're kind of suggesting that your interpretation of this is more important than the audience's, and I'm not sure if that's true. You know, like sometimes the audience's experience with this is the most important thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think giving them room to have that is kind of sacred. It's like you don't need to impose you don't need to impose as much control as you can over how these songs are received.
No. I mean, you can only lead them into it. You know, you can only give them that jumping off point.
I'll also mention I did a workshop once at UNCW that was like, I went to a creative writing camp for 2 years.
It's Wilmington, okay.
In Wilmington, and I wrote this thing. I guess I noticed what I just laid out because I was guilty of it, and why I say it was immaturity. I wrote this story, and then I wrote this thing that went with the story that was like kind of exactly that. Like, these are things you should know about my intention. And I remember the one of the guys who was like responsible for the camp and stuff, he was like, yeah, I didn't print that bullshit out. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, you should always assume that your audience is just as smart as you. And I've never forgotten that. I've always tried to practice that ever since he told me
advice, that. Yeah. Now, what year? Well, when did you start writing songs?
I definitely had them floating around in my head. I mean, from a very young age.
Nice.
And so when I was very young, I only played drums, and I would write songs while playing the drums. Like I would have the lyrics in my head and had no real context for how to put melody and stuff to them. And all through childhood, I had songs and stuff that would just kind of linger in my mind. But when I got a guitar at age 16, that was when it really just kind of started to happen all the time. And that was when it became a craft for me rather than this sort of ghost that I sensed was in me, kind of thing. How about you? You started writing songs.
I was probably 15.
Yeah.
16. Yeah. It was probably like the sophomore year. It's 15. Yeah.
Now, when would you say, so you started at 15, 16, somewhere around there. Do you know when you would say the songs started to get better?
Well, I like to think that they get better. Each one is better. And to some extent that was true. But when did they start getting better? I mean, you know, they started getting better through the open mics, you know. So I guess I had written songs before I went to that open mic, but I'm trying to remember. The beginning there is a little foggy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that I want to hear any of them now, but like I'm certain that, like, you know, by like my senior year of high school, I was writing some songs that I liked, and I know I've got a recording of something. I remember going to see my friend. I had a friend who was a year older, still friend, who was a year older, and he had gone to college in California, USC, and he was going to. I think he was going to. Was he in film school out there? Or he was going. Maybe he was doing like recording arts out there. And he had invited me out for his spring break, and which I guess coincided with mine somehow, and I flew to California to see him, and he had an old DAT machine, access to a DAT machine, and we set up this DAT machine at some girl's beach house. I think we were in Malibu. I mean, I had no idea where I was or what was going on really, but like here we just rolled tape and just like you and I like sat down and played songs for a few hours, and somewhere I have that recording, which which has some of those old songs on it, which, I have a box where this stuff is. I haven't listened to it since then, but like I always tell myself, don't lose that box.
Oh, I bet that's good stuff. Man.
Just keep that box, because when you're 80, you're going to want to hear this stuff, or, and I'll get there. But like I said, I don't know that I want to hear it now, but like, I feel like that was the, that like you said, that open mic motivation to keep writing songs and bring new things in.
Yeah.
That's how you get better. You just keep doing it, and it's a muscle, it's just like, you learn, and you learn what works, you learn what doesn't. And you start developing little tricks, or not. There's devices which I see throughout my writing through the years that I'll do it, and then I'll be like, I've done that before, or maybe that's just one of the things I do, know. And it's just kind of like, why not? Whatever works. So and the one thing that no one tells you is, songs pour out of you in the beginning,
Yeah, no kidding.
And you write in your 20s, like, you don't even intend to write a song, and you've got a song. You're on the bus, and you got a song by the time you get there, and that was a beautiful time period, and like, I miss that. It's like they don't tell you that it's going to run out.
No one talks about that, but that is so true.
So I was wondering that on the way here, because I know now you're in your 30s now.
Uh-huh.
Now, have you had that? Are you on the other side of that, or are you still? You seem pretty prolific. I don't know how much you've been writing. I know you're working on a record now.
Yeah, it all depends. It depends a lot on lifestyle and where I'm at mentally and with sort of where my life is. But what I notice is, instead of it being like this pouring, I do have more control over it, I think. And so because of some things I practice, I can sometimes decide, like, okay, I'm going to write now. For example, instead of like waiting for inspiration or something, I think like there was a time where it just flowed and flowed and flowed, and it was just like, I mean, it was crazy. It was like I treated it like a full-time job, but made zero money doing it. Like, I would stay up late into the night. Like, I've got to finish this song. I would write 2 songs in a day. Who knows?
Nice. Wow.
All sorts of shit when I was in my 20s. At one point, when I took a break, then I was like, I'm not going to write for a while. And since then, kind of from, I don't know how it's exactly happened, but from coming back from that, my relationship now seems to be a lot more that if I have an idea that I've accidentally found or stored on my phone or something, there are times where a mood strikes me where it feels like a bit of a flow, but more often than not, I can actually decide when I'm going to write. That wasn't something that I used to do. Like, it used to be more like lightning strike in or just a constant flow. And now it's a little bit more like, okay, I'm going to make time to devote to writing. And I noticed that it's just more, it's more control, I think, over the craft. It's more like an intentional style of writing rather than a chaotic one or something, or just like a haphazard style of writing.
Yeah.
But you are right, though. Like, I didn't know, and I hadn't really thought about that, but it does slow down and it does become more selective or something. And like, I don't know if that's true for I wonder if that's. I wonder how like Nashville guys, Song Factory guys, or even more like guys like somebody like Springsteen. Like I wonder if it slows down for them. You know?
I'm sure. I think it is. I mean, one of the things that the that fast folk workshop and that writing on a schedule thing was like, and like I said, like we said, the having stuff ready for open mic, writing to a deadline, it does work.
Yeah.
And like if you tell yourself I need to show up with a song, you'll have a song. It may not be a good song,
Right.
but you're going to finish a song. And I think kind of holding yourself to a schedule, yeah, that's always worked.
Mm-hmm.
I say that, but right now I'm not part of a songwriting group that's holding me to a schedule. So it's not like, but like all through when I was going to these workshops, and I started going to different ones. There was one in Jersey that met monthly, and that was kind of a little more obtainable. I would know I'd have something done and refined for that one. It's like I would show up with something that was more complete. Whereas I feel like the New York one, I was just like racing to have something done, but motivated to do it.
Yeah.
So, it's also a function of, as you do it more and get better at it, or the songs get better, you want to hold yourself to that standard more, and so you start getting more hard on yourself. And there's the catch-22 of the editing voice in your head saying, "That's not quite that good. That's not as good as you were hoping for." And that's the danger of like, editing before it's done. And like I have friends who write these songs that are. I'm amazed how long their songs are. For good or for good or for
Better
not.
or worse, yeah.
But no, I mean, you think you like. I can count on my one hand if I have songs that have more than 4 verses, and I'm pretty much like but that's why I write. I mean, I stick to I tend to formulate an idea in 3 verses.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, if it's not wrapped up by the 3rd, maybe it needs a 4th, maybe. But like, I don't know, the songs kind of unfold. To me, if it's like if it can't be said by the 3rd verse, your song might be a little too long. I don't know. But then I hear it done. Then I love Dylan, and I listen to Dylan, and I'm like, I don't get bored listening to the 8th verse of Desolation Row, but
Right.
Is it the same song? Or it's a different way to write.
Yeah. But, well, and from that question, Dylan came to mind. Like, Dylan's, in like the 500 song club or something. And
Yeah.
I'm sure he wrote probably 400 of those before he was 40 years old.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He's definitely slowed down from when he was on some kind of cycle of putting out 2 studio albums a year or whatever it was. I don't know if I might be exaggerating his productivity, but nonetheless, I mean, he wrote a lot in the early stages of his career.
Sure.
And I'm sure it does slow down for more people, but there's obviously 3 major components in the songwriting craft or whatever. There's the lyric writing. There is maybe not in the songwriting craft, but in what we do. There's the songwriting. There's the guitar playing, and there's the voice.
Mm.
You have all 3 of these things, and I'm wondering which of these 3 is either most primary to you, most enjoyable, came most naturally to you. What is your relationship with those 3 components?
Oh, good question. The part that comes most naturally and is the most enjoyable is the guitar, for sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
You are a hell of a guitar player.
Thank you. And that piece is, I don't know. I mean, that's the engine for me. Is like a lot of the songs come out of the music, but not always. Vocally, melodies kind of build for me, but of the three, that's I don't want to say the afterthought, but it's the last thing I think of. I mean, a melody will often evolve as a song kind of gets finished. Like, but it's, I mean, the song is in the lyrics, it's like, but like the mood of the song can be determined by the music and can be driven by the music. But the song is going to be about the lyric,
Yeah.
I mean, none of your songs are about what the music is. I guess it can be. That's a very good question, Tyler.
It definitely can be for some people, but I'm with you on that. I relate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I love I love a song that kind of, it's all how you present a song that it becomes what kind of song is this. It's like if you can take a song and go into some minor tuning with it, and it becomes a lot more intense song all of a sudden, and it's just like, and sometimes you kind of realize like, the lyric will kind of dictate what mood you're going for, and then I'll kind of change the music to fit that more, but, and it's fun to like try it different ways too, and just try it like saying, I have a piece of music I want to fit lyrics to, or I have lyrics that I'm going to fit to music, or I'm going to write them together, and it doesn't always work, but it leads you to something,
Yeah.
How about you? When you write, what's your, do you go at it different ways?
I have main ways that I do it, and I will admit that. So, and when I listed that three, actually, I should have mentioned melody too. That should have been the fourth one. So, voice, which
I kind of use it hand in hand.
Yeah, it like goes with melody.
Yeah.
Because there's like your voice, but then there's like vocals. You know what I mean? And
right.
Like there's some songs. I guess what comes to mind is like there's some songs that I push as far as I can vocally because I'm trying to sing well. But then there's other songs that sound better if I'm like very relaxed in my vocals.
Yeah.
So there's like the vocal quality, but there's also its relationship to melody. Then there's lyrics and there's guitar playing.
Yeah.
Guitar playing, I think I've enjoyed trying to be good at guitar, and getting good at guitar. But it's more fun now, I think, as a performance, as a piece of my performance. But it was always secondary to sort of lyric and melody. And melody has been an important thing that has informed, like, basically lyric structure for me, I think. So, melody, I find it impossible for myself to write lyrics without knowing what the melodic structure is. Not impossible. I've done it before, but what I like better is knowing, like, I have this space, this many syllables, this room that goes do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And if I have that, then it tells me sort of like it's almost like Mad Libs. Like it tells me how much space I have to fill with lyrics.
Figure out the puzzle. Yeah,
that's the space I use. And I think that does add a little bit to a rhythmic component to some of the way that some of my songs work. Like it feels to me when I'm singing it, it feels very symmetrical, which I think is due to just the balance that I try to strike with stuff. So most important is, I suppose I would say most important is like melody and lyrics, and guitar is a huge part of what supports that. But obviously if you need to switch to a different instrument, then I do that. Like if I have to play on keyboard, I'm not the least bit interested in playing the keyboard like well. It's just that it's supporting the lyrics and the melody.
Do you write on keyboard sometime?
Sometimes. Some songs I did. Some of Life Lessons I did. I did some of those songs on keyboard,
nice.
Which was another way for me to just change how I approached that whole project.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was different.
How old is that record?
It came out in 2019.
Okay, so it's fairly new. All right.
Yeah, that was the last thing I released before, I guess before the pandemic shit, right? Like,
Yeah, it would have been 2020. Yeah, so it must be before.
and I get, yeah, because, yeah, I put out Devil, I think, in 2020 or 2021. So, yeah, that was my last release before kind of really going on hiatus and taking a break and all that.
Non-voluntarily.
Yeah. Like I put it out in like, I think October of 2019.
Okay.
So after that, it was kind of a weird experience. But when I put out Life Lessons, like the night of the release, it felt very bad. I think it was just like, I don't know how to explain it, but I didn't have something else to move on to. And I think something about that felt bad. So I was actually like entering into a hiatus already. And then March happened. And then the hiatus became like worldwide. And I was just like, oh, this is not what I was expecting to happen.
It just seems surreal. That's a whole other conversation, but
Yeah,
it's just
no
like
kidding.
you get flashes of that time, and you're just like, it seems surreal now. You know? And it's not. I mean, you know, yeah, I don't know. I can't even wrap my head around it. Still, Marble.
Oh my God. She's so cute. Hello, girl.
That's right where I left you. That's where you were sitting when I left here
Yep.
last time, back in December.
She loves that chair. Yeah, I think it was December or
It was
late
right,
December
yeah, it
or
was
January.
right before
something
New
like
Year's.
that.
Yeah. What a great night. That was a fun night here.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
For those who weren't here, it was my first Red House concert in the house that involved like multiple artists and was kind of semi-public in a way, like like other people invited people, and yeah, it was just great. I mean, it was kind of magical. Like it was you and Colin Allred and our band, and it was just like, man, like I was standing back there while you were playing, like, this is so stacked. Like this is a better show than I've seen in Winston in a long time, and it's in my house. This is wild.
Well, I hope you'll do some more, man. I look forward to checking the Red House series out. Yeah, I don't know. I know.
Yeah.
I know you will. I know you will.
I have another craft question that I want to ask before, because I want us to trade some songs.
Great. Awesome.
But another craft question before we do that, which is, I'm wondering, like, sometimes I live in a way that's like kind of like a almost like always be closing kind of mentality. It's like a always be writing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'll find myself in a environment where I'm not the least bit in the right mood to be an artist. Like the last time that this happened, I was like on a job site. I was like busy, but I found myself looking at the room being like, oh, look at this. Like, look at this setting. Like, this is so interesting. And I was like kind of collecting it all as a picture, the way that I'm sure other songwriters do, other artists do. And I think it was a day or two later, I wrote a song that was kind of about observing that.
Oh, cool.
And I guess I'm wondering where some of your song ideas really begin. Not when you sit down and start writing the song, not when you like are playing guitar, but sort of like what you're like. I'd love to understand more about how you're kind of looking at the world in a way that lets the world inform what you might write about.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's kind of a mystery, but it's also the kind of thing that you keep filling the well with exposing yourself to whatever that inspires you, and you don't really know what it's going to be. But I think as songwriters, you start developing this sense of picking up on something that's going to be a song, and you go out looking for that. You really, you do.
Yeah.
And and there was always like a joke not a joke, but like with my songwriter friends, some bullshit would happen and they'd be like, oh, we're going to get a song out of that,
Yep.
and like you start like collecting those things, and maybe you have a notebook with you probably have a notebook with random ideas that I don't know what this is going to be, but I'm going to use it sometime, or you find old stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just always being open to that spark. It's like there was one thing about public transportation that was always kind of like overhearing conversations and be like, oh, that's a little nugget there. I'm taking that, and it's still that way for me. I mean, like I'll get a little spark from a turn of a phrase that, I'm sure you read a lot, and it's just like stuff will pop up in there. And you're like, oh, that kind of just, you start going down a rabbit hole with an idea and be like, that could be a song, right? And even if it's not, sometimes you're just kind of, once you ask yourself, could that be a song? Answer is yes. It could always be a song,
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a good song. It's gonna, if it's gonna get you writing, it'll turn into a song. So my answer is just, I am still perennially tuned into what's gonna be in my next song. And it's like I'm not in the always be closing mode as much as always be writing. I do like to have something that I'm chipping away on. Mm-hmm. And if I don't, I kind of feel like I'm not doing my job, but more than not, like I'll finish one thing and I'll be like, yeah, all right, what's next now? It's just like, I know there's something else in here that's brewing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I don't, there's a thing about songwriting is on one hand, you don't want it to end. And on the other hand, you can't wait till it's over.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't say I love to write, but I love having a new song, you know? And it's just like, and when you finish a song that you kind of like, you're just like, why don't I do that every day, man? That's so fulfilling, And then there's like this beautiful grace period of like, oh, I just wrote a song that I kind of like, I may not like it tomorrow, so I better enjoy it now.
That does happen.
But
yes, as you pointed out, I mean, like interesting phrases, nugget phrases, those are great. I love idioms. I love being reminded of an idiom or learning of an idiom or learning the history of an idiom and kind of tying that into things. And just, like capturing those. That feels like a cultural thing, like it captures the Appalachian culture in a way sometimes to capture like to accurately sort of work an idiom into a song. And I love imagery, and I love like anytime I can name an interesting place or whatever, and public transportation is a great example of that kind of setting that brings about stuff. Like you just, who knows, you're going to pass some place called like Meals on Wheels or something, or Ted's, BJ's Shoes, or, Live at Ted's or whatever, like all these weird places. And all of a sudden there's
High Point Climax,
Yeah. Welcome, North Carolina. Like what why the fuck is there a town called Welcome? Like it's great. Stuff like that, I think is so much cannon fodder.
Yeah. There was a town in New Jersey called Hope, New Jersey. And just outside of Hope was the land of make believe. This place called the land of make believe.
Really?
And I was just like, that's just begging. It's just like, it's just sitting right there, beyond hope in the land of make believe. I mean, like, come on, stuff like that. You're open to it. Give me an example of an idiom like you're talking about for Appalachian.
Like in one of these songs that I'm gonna play today, a new song. I use this phrase. It looks like it's trying to rain, and that's just something that like is normal. That you used to hear, like especially with old timers, like people say that shit. One in this song, I was trying to work in the phrase about like the devil's beating his wife, but I couldn't really figure out a way to do that in a way that it felt graceful, But that, because that's a pretty harsh phrase, and I started like trying to figure out where it came from and stuff. Like started researching it, and it's such a sensational idiom, that it was a little harder to do. But like that was the temptation. anything that I can make kind of colloquial is fun. I'm sure that there's some stuff. Even I guess one example. There's a song that I put out on Devil called "Devil and a Dead Man," and there's a lot of like personal, sort of colloquial terms in that one that might not be commonly used idioms, but they're more personal colloquial terms. Like "mean muggin" is a fun little phrase to use that, or like talk to him with the least bit of salt, son. Gonna show you what the gloves are for.
Oh, nice.
You kind of assume that the audience knows what you mean by that. And that's what's fun about it, is like when the audience does know what you mean by that, it's kind of an exciting thing. It's like, oh, we're speaking the same language that if somebody else didn't know what we meant, like they wouldn't quite grasp what we're saying. I love shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
I'm hoping to get enough credibility to work in God willing and the creek don't rise into.
Yeah, that's a good.
Is that the right phraseology? Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Respectfully, I know I'm a Yankee. I'm not going to push my luck too hard.
Man, it's all good. We're all friends down here.
You really are, and I got to tell you, it's not an exaggeration how kind people are in North Carolina.
Really?
Because I've been like surprised by the kindness in the best way, and but I knew it already. But like when we moved down here, I was just like, gosh, it is real. I mean, it's real. Like when my neighbor walked over with some fresh biscuits the first day we moved in, I was like, this is actually happening right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that, man. I mean, and I'm really glad to hear that. And especially because there's plenty of mixed feelings, and there can be. There's room for mixed feelings.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
I just like, I'll be real selective saying this, but I heard something this last week that I'd love to criticize, and I won't. But it was a bastardization, I think, of the concept of Southern hospitality. And so anyway, just to hear you say that your experience with Southern hospitality has been legitimate.
I've had a good one, yeah.
I'm glad.
And while I'm thinking of it, I want to shout out my neighbor Candace, because she's a fan of yours. So hopefully she'll hear this and know that she'll know I'm talking about her. She was the only one who brought me biscuits. Biscuits
are so damn good.
But she's fantastic, and yeah, I'm sure I'll talk more about her. But she likes Bob Dylan as well. She'll text me all the time and tell me she's listening to Bob. I remember it was like around Christmas time, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, and I got this text from her, and I was like, oh shit, is she okay? And she's just like, I'm just over here enjoying Bob Dylan's Christmas album, and I'm cracking myself up. I just wanted to tell you that. And I was like, that just made my day. I don't care how late. You can tell me that anytime, any hour of the night.
Love that. Bob. Love Bob too.
Bob's Christmas record. I didn't even know that existed until right then. But it's an experience. Do yourself a treat. Well, now I want to hear the song about "Feels Like Rain."
Yeah,
or it feels like it's going to rain.
Let's do that.
Give me that phrase again. It's trying to rain.
It's trying to rain.
Yeah.
And it does. It fits well with the song, because this brand new song called "I Don't Mind the Rain."
Okay, cool.
So I'm going to test this and make sure that our guitar mic is working well enough. This is the world premiere. I'm going to move it a little closer to both of us. And we'll just toggle back and forth. It looks pretty all right.
Good man, managing both roles.
Do what we can out here. All right, so this is a brand new one. I might struggle along with it a little bit, as you might guess. Another one of those family songs, and I won't tell you about it, like I won't do what I was and impose my will on the interpretation, but I'll just tell you about a little of the writing process. This was one that I found this line in my phone, and I'd sing it, and I'd sing some lines with it, and I was like, God, I really like that, but it took me some effort actually to figure out what the song was about. And then the first line of this song popped in my head one day, and I was like, maybe that's the answer. I played with a lot of different angles, but finally I said, no, you know what? Instead of making this about like kind of different characters, I'm gonna lean in on making this about these characters and see what happens. And this song came out, and I'm actually really pleased with it.
Cool.
Henry kept a garden, he would grow as much as anyone. He would spend the whole day on his tractor in the summer sun. And Betty, she would call him even though she knew it was in vain. She'd yell off the back porch, Henry, it looks like it's trying to rain. Dark clouds in a summer sky can be a sight for a sore eye. Henry turned that wheel again and drive his Ford into the wind. And he'd say, I don't mind the rain falling down across the garden bed. I don't mind the dark clouds rolling in from overhead. Well, I know that sun is waiting for his chance to shine again. So for a little while, I don't mind the rain. Henry built a cabin with oak logs and an old tin roof. Built it with his third son when they had some extra time to lose. They'd sit on the front porch after mowing yards or killing weeds. What is it? They could hear the wind change and the thunder cracking through the trees. Leaves show their underside when they feel the water in the sky. Henry'd stand underneath the tin and greet the rain just like a friend and say, I don't mind the rain falling down across an old tin roof. I don't mind the time inside if you want to know the truth. Well, I know that sun is waiting for his chance to shine again. So for a little while, I don't mind the rain. It's been years since Henry died and was laid to rest by Betty's side. And when the rain comes down today, it feeds the flowers round his grave. Now I keep a garden just to see what I can figure out. It's just a little garden, it ain't nothing to write home about. And sometimes I wonder how it was that Henry grew so much. He must have had a green thumb or a nut Mother Nature Midas touch. Sometimes when the summer yield has turned me red as an apple peel, I see the dark clouds rolling in like a mountain floating in the wind. And I think I don't mind the rain falling down across my burning brow. I don't mind the rain, in fact we need it anyhow. Well, I know that sun is waiting for his chance to shine again. for a little while. I don't mind the rain. I don't mind the rain. Yeah, I don't mind the rain.
Yes.
That's my newest one.
Well done, man. Like a mountain flowing in the wind. Yeah, that's a good song, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually feel real invested in that one.
It suits you. I hear the gardener in you in there as well. You know.
I love that. That's the best. That's the best feedback I could get. Yeah, so it's kind of about my grandfather, you
Okay.
know, and I felt like it was kind of informed by a conversation I had with a friend of mine, Lauren, who was she was like, yeah, you know, everybody around here tells me about their grandfather who just had the biggest garden and all this. And it's true, man.
Right.
I don't like after starting my little garden last year, I don't know how he did it.
Oh yeah.
But he did. I mean, he kept a massive garden. So that's kind of the history for that song.
Very nice. Well done, man.
Yeah.
When did you finish it up?
I'm
Still working on it.
I think I finished it like 3 or 4 days ago.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I've been like I emailed it to my bandmates and just kind of was like, just kind of sitting with it and just
Yeah.
just I recorded a little demo of it, but I really like that one.
Yeah. That's got a place. That's a keeper.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say when you got some solid bandmates. Those guys can really play. I mean, I'd like to hear. I guess I only caught you once with Michael, but
yeah, man, they are really good bandmates, and
Yeah.
they're both so musical and like you got to hear some of Kike's stuff sometimes.
Hell yeah.
Sometime. Michael too, like they're both. It's like it's interesting. They're both these like mad geniuses that their stuff isn't really out there in the public that much.
Really,
and
yeah.
It's almost a bummer. It's like, man, your stuff deserves a light on it.
Yeah.
And I hope that they start sharing their stuff more because they're brilliant musicians.
yeah.
Have you written anything new lately?
Yeah. Actually, I've got something brand new that I'm probably gonna have to lay on you just cause.
I'd love that.
But I think I might play something else first just because I think I'm tuned to the right thing.
That works.
But yeah, I mean I've been digging away at a song this week, and it was kind of like, well, if you finish it, maybe you play it. So that was kind of a good motivation to get it done, or at least enough to play for you. But
Hell yeah.
I think I'll play this one first just because I tuned to it when I changed my strings before. I use this guitar mostly for open tunings, and when I perform, I usually use 2 guitars, and sometimes 3, and just to kind of keep you cut down on the tuning time. You have them kind of set in like I use a lot of stuff that's around open C, and then another guitar I'll use for stuff that's around open D, and then one I'll leave in standard. And did I move that too far?
I think it's okay. Say hello.
Hey now. I think I might have disconnected myself. I don't mind the rain. La da da da. All right. Anyhow, so when I tuned it back up, I just tuned. When I put the strings on, I just tuned to this. I tuned it to C, because in my head, like I wanted to get used to that tension. You know, I don't want it to be in standard mode.
Well, if you need a standard one and you don't want to retune,
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Now, which Martin do you have? I can't remember.
That's a JM40 or J40M.
J40M. That's
Yeah.
pretty. Yeah, that's really pretty.
Yeah, it is an unusual build. It's a dreadnought top with a jumbo bottom, and it just allegedly was designed for to be a hybrid of flat picking and finger picking guitar, which is like kind of kind of ideal for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. It's a great guitar.
They have such a nice low end. The balance of Martins is just,
Yep.
yeah, I think they're,
Can't be beat.
yeah. I mean,
Is this a
it's just-
D28?
this is a HD 35. Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice.
And it's just got that nice bigger low end that, I don't know, it lends itself to what I do more. That was the we touched on Pandemic a little bit before, and I thought of this song last night because I told you we had gone to that spring dance show last night. And I'm still kind of uneasy about being in rooms with a lot of people, you know,
Yeah.
like audiences.
Yeah, it's hard to get past.
It's a lot, yeah. And I didn't mask up last night, and I think it might have been, well, there's been others that I haven't, but they were a good contingent of people who were masked up, and I respect that. You know, I'm like, and then as we were walking out of the theater, I heard some comment by someone walking by making a comment about some people in masks, and I was just like, that wasn't cool, you know, just like. You do you, man. You know, just you do you. Let everyone do them. You know, what makes them comfortable. You know, and I'm just like, and it just kind of brought back that weirdness of pandemic times. And
Yeah.
so this song started swinging around in my head, and I haven't played this much, so I think I still know the words though. They're in my pocket, but I think I'm gonna fly without them. I'll regret that in a minute.
Hey, man, I did it too.
I call this Another Revolution. Close enough.
That is a nice sounding guitar.
Thank you. So it's been a year, and oh, what a year it's been, and since we're still here, let's count our blessings again. We stayed in our rooms, held back the tide with a broom. And since we live to tell, are we wiser now as well? Now, it's been a revolution, another round round the sun. A hell of a revolution, but nobody wanted this one. I'll pull off. Bam. There it is. The dam finally breached. Out from under a knee, we took to the streets, mass of humanity. The wake up, it's true, was long overdue, with much more work to be done. To stand up for everyone, joining a revolution, rising for everyone, a hell of a revolution. We really needed this one. I thought we might grow strong Stronger from stormy weather. How can't we know we're in this all together? It's painful to watch. This world is still botched. It'll take some time to climb back to precedented times. After a revolution, there's another round round the sun. Progress and evolution are never really done. There'll be another one. Something like that. Something like that.
Man, maybe it's I guess it's the open tuning stuff maybe that's why you're attracted to it. But one thing that stands out immediately about that song is just how much you're able to do with the guitar part to make it so much more interesting than if it were, just a standard kind of thing.
Yeah, that drives me a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, it keeps me interested, and that's, if I'm not interested, no one's going to be interested.
Yeah. Also, your voice sounds really, really nice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I hope I didn't redline us on that.
No, it was like almost wanting to peak, and it might have peaked in just the first verse, but it'll be
That's
fine.
okay.
Yeah.
I've peaked already, so it's okay.
No, but that's cool. So was that your kind of, what state of mind were you in when you wrote that one? That sounds like definitely a pandemic song.
Yeah. It was just kind of, yeah. I mean, I knew something would come out of it, and it was just kind of like, I guess it was the point where it was a year in, and when, after everyone, hoping and praying that it was, and being told it was going to be like 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, and like there was a year later, and we're just all kind of like, oh, what's happening now?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm grateful. We weathered the storm okay. We were able to get by, and everyone safe and lived to tell. It was just kind of like, that was where I was like, let's be grateful, and let's also say, what have we learned from this? And from a songwriting point, that's a song that was more for me than anybody else,
Yeah.
And so I didn't worry about the fear of being preachy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because that's not really what kind of writer I am, or what kind of writing I enjoy. It's like, I don't like being told what to think or what to do, and I don't, and I realized I felt myself treading on that a little bit, but I'm like, you're just reflecting, it's more about, staying healthy during that, and like music. I will say that, like, the forced break of that, in terms of being a itinerant musician, it came at a time where I guess I was ready for it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that I was as much, but like I was I don't think I was enjoying the trajectory that I'd find myself in, like I was, I think I was just doing a lot of jobs that I wouldn't necessarily have done. And it kind of led me to examine, yes, you're making money from music, and you've got a good, you know, momentum going with that. But it's all. Then I was just like, but I there's a part of that that I missed that wasn't quite as there. And a lot. There were a lot of gigs that were not focused on original music anymore, and it was kind of like it became like this. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but it did kind of make me realize, well, maybe it's time to take a pause for the cause and like kind of take that back for yourself.
Absolutely.
And then I was forced to,
Yeah.
and then I was like, here's your chance to examine like who you are without a guitar strapped onto you, and like, dude, what do you want to be? What do you want to be able to do in addition to that,
Yeah.
and then and that kind of led directly into us moving down here, and I found that when I picked the guitar back up, I never put it down, but I like everyone, I hadn't left the house with it, for a couple of years, and then when I did leave the house with it again,
Mm-hmm.
what I reconnected to was like the joy of playing music and like the community. Like that's the thing that I missed, and it's just like, and I met the everyone I've met down here has been through playing music with, and it's just kind of like, not everyone, but like aside from my neighbors, it's like the community I've kind of dialed into has been, the crew, the Muddy Creek, Old Salem crew that open mic over there, Dan Collins, Country Dan,
Mm-hmm.
Country Dan, of
Yeah.
course, and and Cindy and Bob were two of the first people I met over there, and so, and that kind of just opened that gift back up, just kind of like taking it back for me a little bit, and I think a lot of musicians, I know a lot of musicians who like everyone was forced to retool, but I think a lot of musicians kind of switched things up after that, and
Oh yeah.
and and it's like you kind of had to if you wanted to even keep doing it. And I was just watching somebody online do a home at home streaming thing, and I'm like, oh, I don't miss that, man. Like I'm so disinterested in that.
Yep.
And like he was saying how he was like, since pandemic, I have, my touring's been so disrupted, and I haven't toured in all these places that I regularly went to. And so he's like, so I'm still just doing this to make sure I stay connected to those people until I can get back there and whatever. And, which I understand, but at the same time, like
I hated that shit.
I had no interest. I didn't really do it. I mean, I did one or two that I was part of that I got asked to do. And like, yeah, I just kind of, I didn't connect to it, and like,
Yeah.
and people did it well, and I'm thankful it was there, but like it was something that I was not interested in doing.
Yeah. I didn't do any live ones. I
Yeah.
did a video series that Ramcat put on, but
Oh, cool.
and that was well produced. It was professionally produced, like it was good, but
Yeah.
I did not participate, and it was just such a sad time. But one thing I will say that I don't think I've said out loud yet, but I think a lot of the people who were just in it to make what they thought was easy money and clog up the industry, I know some of those people quit and didn't go back, and that honestly gave me a little bit of a sigh of relief, because it was just like, oh, like, and then all these like great players started like hitting the road real hard, and I was just
Okay.
like, what an interesting turn. This is kind
Yeah.
of nice.
Yeah.
That's just whatever, me having a poor attitude probably.
No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. But I was thinking about I came up with something about that too. Like the idea of, that the barriers of entry have been erased through digital availability and
Yeah.
digital distribution, and, and the equalizer is still, you know, people need to be interesting enough to listen to.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, in a way, it's kind of like just makes it into a more of a free market, which is on many levels very cool, you know. And but you know, then you get into the whole, you know, what's the phrase, gatekeeper thing, you know.
Yeah.
But where was I going with that? I don't know. I guess I was just going off on. I found a recording of. Actually, it was from Godfrey Daniels. Look at that. There. We've come full circle. I found a 20-year-old recording from there in my closet on a CD, and when I realized, I'm like, this February, I was like, oh, that's going to be 20 years ago, that show, you know, and like, it's been sitting in my closet for 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, I should do something with this. You know, it was really cool. The sound man, there was a great sound man there by the name of Otto Bost, who is sadly gone now. Made me this record of that night, and it was just one of those magical nights that, like, I don't even know that I knew he was recording it, honestly, but it was a great night in that I had just met this guy, Jimmy Heffernan, who plays dobro, and I think that was one of the first, if not the first, gig we did together. And then we just clicked, you know. And he's a stunning player, Nashville studio guy, and has, you know, he's got chops and creds out the wazoo. But you know, ended up on the bill with me that night, and I was like thrilled, you know. And then he was a brand new friend, and my buddy Carl, who I played with since I was a teenager on keyboards, and the three of us just kind of gelled into, like, you know, when there's a night, it's just like, it's an unrehearsed kind of bit of magic, you know, lightning in a bottle kind of thing. And it was just like, this guy caught it on tape, and it was just a really charged night for me. And I was so glad to have found that. And then the thing wouldn't play. Ha! It was like a 2 CD thing, and like I couldn't get the second one playing, and I was like, oh no, you know. But then I tried all these things on it, and I was finally able to rip the digital off of there. So my whole reason for saying that was that I was like, you know what, I should just put this on, like, Bandcamp. You know, I'm like, I don't, you know, I'm not looking to sell it. I'm not going to promote it. I just, like, I now that I found it, I want to have it.
Yeah.
And like that's a safe place to keep it. And then at the same time, as soon as I hit upload, it's worldwide distribution when you think about it. You know, it's like, it is available anywhere with an internet connection now, you know.
It's crazy.
And it's amazing. And
that part is nice. The lag, like the barrier to entry part is nice. It has, I think, it's weird because there's less judgment, you know. And so, I mean, clearly a byproduct of that is going to be that since there's more art, there's more shitty art out there too. There's more like shitty music out there.
Yeah.
And I actually take a lot of pleasure in listening to bad music, like stuff that's just really, really bad. So it's fine. I'm glad that it's out there. I'm glad that I can find it. But, you know, at the same time, it's a sad reality that, like, there's this, with the easier access, it means, like, it means that there's just more of everything from bad to good. And, sometimes it's a little disheartening because you can understand now, like, it's hard to bitch, I guess, about not having your opportunity or whatever. Like somebody like in my shoes, when I'm looking at what success looks like for me and seeing how far away that I feel like I am from it when it comes to just using social media appropriately and using, you know, relationships within the industry appropriately to have a larger audience or whatever. It's like, yeah, but in order to have access to all that stuff, you kind of really need to cultivate a large following on your own. And knowing how to do that with all of this stuff out there in the world, I find it quite difficult to figure out how to exist.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to disconnect from it's a different mindset, you know?
Yeah.
It's and it's also very frustrating in terms of like, yeah, I mean, it's a whole other conversation too.
It
but
is. It's all over the place.
It's a beautiful thing. But you want it, you want it to reach people, and sure, if there's a little financial reward from it, great, But at the same time, it's like, if we were in this for the money, we wouldn't have got into it in the first place. So it's kind of like,
It's true.
But I mean, that's a cop out in that. I don't know. I hear stuff that, like, when I found your life lessons from Blonde Girls record, I was like, this should be all over the place, And I shot it around to a couple. I shot it down to a buddy in Florida, a guy in Pennsylvania. I was just like, listen to what's happening in Winston-Salem here. So
well, before you leave today, I'll give you a hard copy of that.
Oh, I was going to say, does it exist?
Yeah. I have plenty of them.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I mean, a whole other conversation too is, we're kind of in the post CD era.
Yeah.
And it's changed the paradigm of survival as a itinerant musician.
Yep.
Because the days of, like, I used to make a decent living selling CDs out of my trunk, and once that changed, you're kind of, your live show. Yeah, so you make a door and you make tips and whatever, but it's like if you're not able to move merch like you used to.
Yep.
That changes the balance of that a lot.
Yeah, and you got to sell vinyl and you got to sell shirts. You got to sell stuff that you have to invest more money in from the get-go.
Yeah.
And it was easier for some reason to spend, like, I don't know, $1,200, $1,500 on CDs, on a shipment of CDs than it is. Obviously it's easier because vinyl's much more expensive, and shirts are a little bit of a riskier, I guess, clutter building merch item, because you're going to have boxes and boxes of shirts, like, sitting there. You can't fit like 300 shirts into one box like you can with CDs, so I don't know, it's clunkier, but that's the merchandise that people buy,
Yeah.
at this point. Nobody wants a fucking CD. I'll share one more song with you, and then we'll probably start wrapping up after you do your second one. And this is the closest thing I probably have to, like, a direct pandemic reflecting song.
Oh, cool.
And I don't know if I remember it or not. We'll see. I'm just on the fly. I was in a relationship through a part of the pandemic experience, particularly the quarantine, and was in love with someone, and this song kind of was like about the crazy combination of those feelings juxtaposed with this feeling like the world was crashing down around you, and so it was like, wow, like a horrible feeling mixed with this, feeling of love. It's like it's a confusing kind of combo.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if I remember this shit. Drove you around my little hometown, my hand wrapped around your knee. We rolled by the places, past the strange faces, but your face was all I could see. And I heard the news, the world's got the blues, and everyone's losing their mind. Yeah, the world's on the mend, but you're with me again, and I lose all sense of time. You laid on my couch, and you played with my mouth, and you told me that you were my girl. Me and America sat there and stared at you as if you were saving the world. And I made a bet the world still has yet to make for the end of the line. Yeah, they sound the alarms, but you lie in my arms, and I lose all sense of time. All the people turn soldier, and there's so much I don't understand. Got the weight of the world on my shoulders, but I'm light as a ghost in your hands. The morning was colder, and you laid on my shoulder with coffee and leaves in the wind. And I took you back home. I said I want you to know that I can't wait to see you again. They say that there's doom to come to us soon, but it feels like we're gonna be fine. I don't remember exactly, so yeah, they sound the alarms, but you lie in my arms, and I lose all sense of time. And if the world's gonna end, I'll be with you, my friend, and we'll lose all sense of time.
Oh yeah.
There's that one. Yeah, I remember that. It just at the time it was like couldn't keep up, you know. For one reason or another, either you were happy or in despair, but time made no sense anymore, you know.
Oh yeah, God. Well, that captures it well. And you had me in America sat there and stared at you. That was it. After that, I had full buy-in.
I'm glad.
But the you know, I'm gonna try it, but I'm gonna.
Do you want the standard?
I think I'll do the standard. Yeah.
Okay.
The because something you said about the juxtaposed with pandemic. This could be a good idea or not. And but I'm gonna do it because that's what we're doing.
Hell yeah. You look good with my guitar, so I'm gonna take a picture.
Oh, thanks, man. The what you said about the juxtaposition of the pandemic and the relationship and,
Yeah.
and the feeling feeling bad on different levels. This song is like I literally I think I don't think it's done yet, but so it's gonna be a phone on my knee thing.
Gotcha. I got a stand right there if you want it.
I'm so anti-stand. I'm just gonna go
Gotcha.
with this.
Gotcha.
I'm just gonna do this so it doesn't turn off.
I respect the game.
But I was gonna say I have been writing this song for a while, and I've been kind of putting it off, not putting it off, but like it was in a place where I was like, I didn't know how it ended. And so it was like, I was getting picky, and I was like, yeah, I'll come back to it when I figure out how it ends or whatever. And it's delicate because it's you're the first person hearing this.
Oh, cool.
So I haven't
feel honored.
even played it for my wife, who it is for. We're going to be married 20 years next month. And
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. And so somewhere in the back of my mind, I was kind of like, I should write a song for that, you know. And as the month got closer, oh, that's where I put the words. I had this idea, and I was like, okay, that's the idea. I'll talk about it later, but I was going to say, we started dating right after 9/11, and it was like we were getting serious right when that happened, and that juxtaposition of like feeling that strongly about someone in such a charged time, it has always been kind of a, what's the word? It galvanized what we were building rather quickly, I think, because of like we were like, like you said, if the world's coming to an end, and so that in terms of a transition.
Yeah.
But not that this song's about that. The other thing about I've been listening to a lot of country since we moved down here, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it. Honestly, I've always liked country music, but I've just kind of been like, that's been the thing I listen to in the car now, and I'm just like, I've started focusing in on the songwriting. Because to me, it's like I'll hear a good country song and I'll be like, well, that's just a good folk song with good production value.
Yeah,
and then,
absolutely.
And it's just like, and then there's plenty of bad country too, just like good and bad cholesterol, I'm sure. But so this is me playing a country song. Is my
Gotcha.
This is a folk singer playing country songs. Very country. Look at all that we've been through. Doesn't seem possible. The 20 years have passed. It took me by surprise today, knowing we're here to stay, and we figured out what lasts. Though I know sometimes we can forget, but we've known it since the day that we first met. And if you're willing, I'm in for the long haul too, doing 20 to life with you. Met back when we had the time to get by on love and wine, and wishing on our stars. Bet they didn't think we'd last. Two starving artists living on the stage and off guitars, and long rides in cars, and Borders bookstores, and dreaming of more. know sometimes we still forget, but we've known it since the day that we first met. And if you're willing, I'm in for the long haul too, doing 20 to life with you. Life is showing around our eyes, but I still recognize the glow that drew me near. And wife, you're still the sun to me. You light up the history of the love that led us here. Though I know sometimes we still forget, but we've known it since the day that we first met. And if you're willing, I'm in for the long haul too, doing 20 to life with you. Doing 20 to life with you.
Lovely.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
That has a it has a scheme that it can go unnoticed, but is like hard. You got bookends on it, so it's got like an A B B A C C thing. You got to rhyme on the front lines as well as the back, which is good writing.
Thank you. I learned from the best. Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's for you, Max.
That's super sweet.
It's I know it's dangerous to do a anniversary song with a prison metaphor, but
I love it.
but I was like, if you can pull that off, you can call it a country song, and there's something there.
I love that.
It's not quite soup yet, but I was like, just be brave and play the damn song for him today. And
you definitely you captured something Southern in that.
Oh, thank you.
In that metaphor.
Thank you.
I love that. Yeah. Also, something about like little unexpected, like little modern references, like a Borders bookstore. Like,
yeah,
I like that.
Do you like that? See, I was going to ask you that because is that too specific? I had it. I was thinking of, Borders, of course, because when we first met, and I was running around doing all these gigs. Back in those days, Borders were a mainstay of like a gig that you can do on an off day and that paid well, and you could schedule them like they were everywhere. So like you'd play a coffee house on Saturday and go to the bookstore on Sunday. Mm. And I just have this memory of Maggie being with me at all these bookstore gigs, and so I was like, do I say Borders or do I say like quiet bookstores?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I don't know. And I went back and forth, and then I was like, you know what? You mean Borders, so for now, sing Borders now, and then if it bothers you, take it out. But
Yeah, it makes me think like. There's a line in Chocolate Jesus that I don't actually know what he says. And he says something like, go to church. I fall down on my knees every Sunday at the Revelee's candy store or something. It sounds like it's somebody's last name.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what the line is, but there's something about that I find to be very local. And I guess what I'm thinking as you were thinking about that out loud is like in another 20 years, generationally, Borders Bookstore will sound like a very throwback thing. It'll sound like a very vintage thing.
Yeah.
Whereas Quiet Bookstore will be timeless. It won't be too specific. It'll be very mysterious. But I don't know. There's something kind of charming about knowing what Borders is and it being gone and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like this, like the specificity of things makes it a little... It makes it more relatable.
Yeah.
The specificity brings it to the place. So that was exactly my mindset. Just kind of like, well, I'm like, it's not a commercial. It's a reference.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't know that Borders did shows or whatever. So
Oh, you don't? Oh,
yeah.
wow. See, like, yeah, this is like, I keep saying the late 1900s. That was definitely the period when it started, like around 97 or 8, I feel like. And they had some sort of entertainment budget that they had music like 6 days a week.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And they were paying, I mean, back then the difference between getting through the month was, you do 4 Borders books, there's another $800 in your pocket. It's just like,
That's badass.
yeah. And so that was really a good time for that to come around too, because that was right when I left my day gig in '97, and I was like, I can do this full time. That's all I want to do. I don't want to like sit here at this desk anymore, and I'm gonna blink and be 40 if I do this,
Yep.
And I'm certainly glad I did, because that was the time to do it, and also that job was in the World Trade Center, actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I mean, that was 90. I left there in '97.
Jesus, that's terrifying to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. But everybody I worked with lived through that, thankfully. But that was it. I mean, I was 27, and I was like, I'm not gonna have this opportunity again where I can like live on the cheap. I wasn't married yet. I was, I didn't have a mortgage. I was like, what bills do you have, dude? What are you waiting for? This is the time. And I did, and I took the leap, and that was it. And then once you do that, you're kind of like, okay, where's the rest of that money coming from? That one thing about that day job was that they paid you. That's right.
Yep.
And so when that came along, I was just like, yeah, I could play in a bookstore for 3 hours, and then
Yeah.
that's fine by me. That's practice.
Bookstore's not a bad environment either,
Yeah.
because it's kind of quieter.
It was quiet, exactly.
Yeah.
And people were there browsing. You grow an audience with people who wouldn't have seen you otherwise.
And like new bookstores where they sell new books, they smell so good.
Just when we were talking about, I could smell that.
I know.
Just as we were saying that, I could smell the Borders lobby there.
Yep. I can just think of Barnes and Noble and smell it. It's pretty weird, and that might be by design. I don't know, but it's pretty cool.
Oh, I guess the Borders are all gone, aren't they? There's a Barnes and Noble on Stratford.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Haynes, somewhere right outside the mall.
Yeah. Okay,
And,
but Borders are all gone, aren't they?
Yeah.
I see that. There it is. It's got to stay. That reference has to stay.
Yeah, it's classic now.
Yeah.
Well, I guess dinner time approaches. We just hit the 2-hour mark.
I'm amazed, my brother, because I was like leaving the house and thinking, I looked at the play time of your guests, and I was like, wow, he's got like an hour and a half at least with everybody. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to talk for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But here we are.
2 hours. And honestly, this has been so fun. I want to do more song swap episodes.
Really appreciate you being open to that.
Dude, it's so cool. I've never done this with the podcast, and like I was talking to Will Easter last time he was on here, and I was saying like I was kind of talking about the difference between music and comedy podcasts, and how I'm like, we can't write like comedians can just be funny in real time on podcasts, and it's kind of their craft, and we can't do that in the same way. We can't really like capture our craft in the same way. But I think the song swap thing, and talking about the craft like we did today, but I think the song swap thing really adds something to that. Like I think I should do this more often.
I agree, especially I mean, I know you have a lot of non-musicians on, but especially when you have a songwriter on, it just kind of opens the channel,
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you did this.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed it, man. Thank you. And
Cool.
I love what you're writing, man. Your new songs are great, and
Thank
I
you.
can't wait to hear what I know you're in the studio on and off now, and I can't wait to hear what you come up with, brother.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Well, as I'm sure we will, let's keep looking for opportunities to play some music together.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Yeah, I'm super glad you're here. So, thank you for doing the podcast. And it's been a pleasure to just like talk the craft with you finally.
Likewise, Tyler.
Hell
Appreciate
yeah.
it, man.
All right.
Thanks, Marble.